From Los Angeles, I'm Eddie Garcia. He's Doug Stolhand. Thanks for joining us for another edition of the Puck Podcast. It is Sunday, August the 31st, 2025. This is the first period of a three-period podcast. First period, which some of you are watching on YouTube, will cover all the news from the past week in the NHL. Our second period is our interview or special feature segment. We actually wrap up our offseason project, looking at all 32 NHL teams and if their rosters, if they were made up of active players that the team had drafted. This week, we're looking at the Blue Jackets, Flyers, Penguins, and Capitals. And in our third period, it's our fan feedback segment. We read listener emails. We also have our off-ice report talking about what's going on in our lives. You can check out all three periods on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. And if you would like what you're seeing, please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel.
This is the 20th season that we have been covering the NHL on this here podcast. We started in July 2006. We've done at least one show every single week since then. And as always, we cover every team across the league, all 32 now. It was only 30 when we started. But it has expanded to 32 and may expand further before we're done. Who knows? But Gary Bettman has been there, has been a constant throughout, one of the few. And as always, though, we start every single week with the top story in the league. And for that, I turn it back over to my co-host and good friend, Eddie Garcia.
Thank you, Doug Stolhand. And we will begin with a couple of stories that came out of the Olympic orientation get-together for the potential Canadian Olympic hockey team. Of course, not everybody invited will be on the actual team, but most likely a lot of the players that were at this meeting this last week will be on Team Canada. And probably the biggest headline came from Connor McDavid, the Edmonton Oilers star, the multiple MVP of the league. There was a media availability. It was him and Sidney Crosby, I think Sam Reinhart, and they opened the room up for questions. And the first question was to Connor McDavid, and he was asked immediately about his contract. He kind of chuckled and said, not even like a Team Canada question to start off. We're going to go right to the contract. But he said that he's not in any hurry, basically, to sign a contract extension. He's going to be an unrestricted free agent after this coming season. To quote and tell you exactly what he said, McDavid said, quote, "I said at the end of June, I had every intention just to take my time with it, and I still feel the same way. Take my time and go through everything. And I have every intention to win in Edmonton. That's my focus, maybe next to winning a gold medal for Canada. But it is my intention to win there. Yeah, take my time going through contract talks with obviously my family, my agent, everybody involved. So we're going through it slowly," end quote. There was a report from NHL reporter John Shannon who said that McDavid will not be signing an extension before the season starts. I don't know how he knows that information, but that was what he was reporting, and also claimed that there have not been any official sit-down negotiations at this point between the two sides, which is, I guess, odd if that's true. I guess my question, Doug, is do you take anything away from these comments? And also, is this just Connor McDavid kind of flexing his muscles just because he can? Because if he wants to be there, I got to assume the Oilers are willing to give him anything he wants. So why are we going through this slow process?
Well, I think two things. One, what's the rush for Connor McDavid? The contract does not expire until July 1st. So up until that day, he can sign an extension at any point. So I don't see any real urgency for him. He could be one of the last players to sign an 8-year deal. I believe that this is the last year you can do that, right? We can do that up until the next NHL calendar year begins, which is, I think, July 1st. But we'll see what the official announcement is. But, of course, he's in the driver's seat here. The Oilers are not going to play too much hardball, I wouldn't think, with him because they need him to re-sign there. And it would be catastrophic for him to walk away. But there's no urgency to get it done now. I think a lot of us fans would be very surprised at how casual players, teams, agents, and GMs are about these contract negotiations, because the fact that they have not even had an official negotiation is surprising to me. I would have thought if I was the Oilers GM or if I was Connor McDavid's agent, I would have had that conversation at some point this summer. to be like, hey, we're eligible to sign an extension. Let's have a preliminary meeting just to get the groundwork done of, we're talking an 8-year deal, right? Or are we looking at a 3-year deal or something of that nature, so that he can have another big payday in 3 years when the cap goes up even more. So find the groundwork there, you would think, and start getting some common grounds, at least find out where each side was as an idea, and then kind of go from there. But I'll turn it back to you there, Eddie, and ask you, if you're the Edmonton Oilers and he has not signed an extension a week before the trade deadline, do you consider moving him rather than risk losing him for zero return?
No, I can't be the GM that willfully traded away the greatest player in the sport, or one of the greatest players in the sport. I have to believe that I will negotiate in good faith till the final moment. If he does in fact leave, I will say we fought until the end, because you can't trade that guy. So no, I would not entertain that unless he just tells me flat out, I'm not re-signing with you. But I mean, to kind of turn it around to what you said, what's the hurry? My question is, what's the delay? What's to talk about? If you're the Oilers, I'm giving you whatever you want. So unless he doesn't know what he wants, which seems hard to believe, I don't understand why we're not farther along in this process and why this isn't on the verge of being done, if not having been done already. Like I said, the only thing I can think of is that this is just Connor McDavid kind of showing the Oilers who's in charge. We're going to go at my speed for whatever reason, because if he wants to stay there, he's going to get whatever he wants. So I don't understand this. And I would assume, I could be wrong, it seems like Connor McDavid isn't someone who is a drama queen, right? That I don't know that he doesn't need this attention. He doesn't need all the questions are going to be asked. Just like in this, the first thing in this media availability was about him and his contract. That's going to be the first question when they get together at training camp. And I mean, that's going to be the only thing people are going to want to know about. So if he wants to, keep that going, I guess he can. I don't understand why the delay. I'm confused by this.
Well, I would ask you, we're just going to go back and forth on this. So you don't want to be the GM that traded Connor McDavid, but you would be willing to be the GM that watched him walk away for nothing? That's the risk, like the John Tavares with the Islanders. You can't lose an asset that valuable for nothing. And if he is not signed for whatever reason, and even if he's not giving you a definitive, like John Tavares did not give them a definitive before he left the Islanders, do you take that risk that you're going to be, now you don't have control over the situation? Once the trade deadline comes and goes, he's in control. He can walk as a free agent, sign anywhere. As for why he may want to, he may be looking at, let's let some other extensions get signed and let's see what the top price is in the league, so that I'm making sure I'm not resetting the market for top players. I want to be the highest paid player in the league. I deserve it. I want to wait until January. Let's see where things are then, and then I will re-sign my extension. I don't know. It's also the risk, though, that he takes of injury. If he gets injured, he loses a little bit of leverage in that sense of, depending on the severity of the injury, the certainty that he is going to be available. So while John Shannon apparently has a fortune cookie or a clairvoyance and can say he's not going to sign before the season, we're still more than a month away from the season beginning. So there's plenty of time if the two sides sit down and work this out. As for the distraction, if I was Connor McDavid, I would say every time I got asked, that's between my agent and the front office. I'm letting them handle it. I'm not involved in that at this point. So just I'm not answering questions about that. It's not, I realize that they're going to ask him every single time that there's a game, a practice, media availability, but that would be my answer every time until they got tired of asking.
Yeah, I'm guessing they won't get tired of answering. They'll just find a different way to ask. But anyway, right. I find it just very curious. I don't really have a good read on what's going on there. The other story that came out of
before you move on,
yeah,
how likely do you think it is he leaves as a free agent?
this year, I think it's very unlikely.
Exactly. So,
but I don't think he's going to sign an 8-year extension or a 7-year extension. I think he's going to sign a short-term deal. I think he wants to make sure the Oilers are going to be doing everything he thinks they need to do to be Stanley Cup competitive, not any kind of retooling or anything. Every year we're going for the cup because the clock's ticking on my career. And if he feels like they're not doing that after 3 years or whatever, then he can go look elsewhere to try and win his championships. That's my thoughts.
The best way to do that is to take less than he's worth. Unfortunately, it's a double-edged sword for players, and it's not that way for teams and owners. But if you want to be the highest paid you possibly can, that's every dollar you take is $1 less they have for the rest of the roster. So Sidney Crosby has taken less than he's worth over his career to make sure the team, the Penguins, always had money to sign the rest of the roster. That's what Connor McDavid has to do if he wants a Stanley Cup contender every single season. He can't take $15 million a year, even though he's worth that, or $16 million a year, or whatever he's worth. He needs to take less than his value so that the team has more money to spend across the rest of the roster. And Draisaitl needs to do the same.
Has Crosby ever gotten any pushback on that from other players? Because
not
players
publicly.
like him, right, set the market for other players. So
it's an arbitration thing. It's a comparable thing. How are you worth more than Sidney Crosby? You want to get paid more than Sidney Crosby, and he's won all these things. He's won MVPs. He's won Stanley Cups. He's won gold medals. And you, somebody that hasn't done any of that, wants to get paid more than him, and yet they do. So I don't nothing publicly, but I'm sure it rankles the NHLPA when players take less than they're worth. And you and I have talked about that in the past. Teams love players like that. Are you kidding me? And fans love it. But at the same time, who among us would do that? Who goes into a contract negotiation at work and says, hey, look, I know I'm worth X amount, but I'll take less than that so that we can have a better organization around me? No, that's very rare.
Well, you mentioned him, Sidney Crosby.
I know, but he's a rare breed.
Yeah, but the flip side of that is, and it's easy for me to say this, but how many millions of dollars do you need? I mean, is
100%
12 million a year as opposed to 15 million a year? Is that the difference between what? You being rich or richer? I mean, if you really want 100%. A championship, I mean, and 100%. I think he does, because I think that cements his legacy. If he doesn't want to be the greatest player who didn't win a cup, nobody wants to have that title.
I agree 1,000% with you. That's why I hate when I see George Clooney doing ads for Nespresso. Like, you really need the money, George? You're never worrying about rent or a bill again in your life, but you got to shill coffee?
Well, we don't know what he's doing with his money, though. Maybe he's very charitable. Maybe he's doing a lot of philanthropic things.
I don't mind a rich person doing an ad if it's a product they actually believe in, or if they're doing it and they're donating their entire fee to charity, their favorite charity of course. That is not the case 99.9% of the time. You think Shaq is donating the money he gets from the general to anything other than his pocket? That guy is ridiculous. Snoop Dogg, those guys are absolute whores for money. They will do anything for a check, and it's embarrassing. I recoil by those guys. I'm repulsed by everybody that just chases dollars that they don't need, to your point. So when I see, but at the same time, if a player who has a limited career, this is not something that can go on forever.
Right.
But I will say, if Connor McDavid, let's use the example we've kind of set here. Let's say he's worth $15 million on the open market and he takes $12 million or $11.5 million a year. He's obviously never going to go hungry. He's never going to worry about rent or bills or putting food on the table. But he can also make that money up in endorsements. He can make it up in other ways if he's really, I got to make that $15 million a year. And I'm certain that's the case long term. And I'm sure the Oilers would help him in that endeavor of saying, thanks for doing us a solid. Here's our corporate sponsors. If you'd like to do an ad for them, they'd be happy to cut you a check for $1 million each or something of that nature. So I can see that being the case. But yeah, I'm 100% with you. And I've thought that for everybody. And as a Patriots fan, believe me, Tom Brady always took less than he was worth. He's the greatest player of all time. He was never constantly the highest paid player in the league. He got his. Don't believe me. He's not broke, but he took a little bit less so that the team could collectively have more. And I respect players like that as a fan and as a person, but I understand why they don't all do that, because it is their one and only opportunity sometimes to cash in on that big payday.
We also had some news, and I should have probably double checked this, but I believe this was also part of the media getting together at this Canadian orientation thing. I don't think this was just some sort of separate interview, but Mitch Marner sat down with Sportsnet, I believe it was, and did an interview talking about leaving Toronto, going to Vegas. And the thing that got headlines, I'm sure it wasn't the only thing they talked about, but he did reveal concerns about certain fans in Toronto. Apparently, there was an incident after the season. His father-in-law told him that apparently on social media, someone had posted his address and maybe like a picture of his house or something, and said something to the effect of, Leafs fans, let's, if you would like to say goodbye to Mitch Marner or whatever, here's his address, or here's his house, or whatever. Just kind of a, hey, I want to make you aware of this. And Mitch Marner apparently took it seriously, had some security. They looked into it. I don't know if it was police involved or something else. But he shared the incident and said, quote, "This market is very passionate. I love them. I mean, I know it. I was born and raised there. I've been a part of the Leafs Nation for a long time, but yeah, when your family's safety comes into question, especially having a new son, I don't think that's acceptable." End quote. And of course, this plays into the narrative that we've talked about many times on this show throughout the years of all the things that come along with being a Maple Leaf. And there are some great things, and there are some things like this. And I know you could say, well, things that are said on the internet, 99% of the time, it's a bunch of baloney, or it's just people being stupid. But it's easy for us to say it's probably not something serious when it's not your ass that could be, or your family
Right.
that could be at risk here. You have to unfortunately take some of these things seriously, which it appears that he did. So again, it's just one of those things we've talked about. Is this getting blown out of proportion, or I don't know. And it's, of course, this time of year, there's not a lot to talk about. So this has been a topic a little bit, but it is, there are certain realities that come with playing in a place like Toronto, and it's not the only place. There are other markets in other sports that are crazy about their teams, and maybe there are a certain segment of the fan base that takes it to an extreme, but it just does kind of play into that thing we've talked about before. Do players want to go there and have to potentially deal with something like that?
Right. And, or can I go play somewhere else, get the same money, get the same chance at winning a Stanley Cup, and not have to deal with this? And what a benefit that is. And he's found that in Vegas. Vegas is just as strong a team as Toronto, if not stronger. They've, obviously won a Stanley Cup in recent years. Toronto hasn't in your lifetime, and you're not young, or my lifetime for that matter. But then again, that overlaps. But it's been, it's something that I think players definitely think about and weigh that consideration of, yes, I want to play in a market that cares about hockey, and the rink is electric every time I go on the ice for a home game. But do I want to worry about my family when I'm on the road? Do I want to worry about the reaction I'm going to get around town if things aren't going well? If I have a bad game, if there's any issue, is there any privacy? Do I want people going through my trash to find out what my injury is, going through my parents' trash, harassing my family? Do I want that, or do I want to play in Florida and win multiple Stanley Cups and not have any of that? This, on the same side, though, this is not anything new. Fanatics have always existed. In fact, it was easier back in the 80s and 70s to kind of know where players lived, because they lived as members of the community. And you would see, you'll hear stories now as people talk about, oh, remember the great Steelers teams of the 70s, and so lived down the street. I remember I lived down the street from Mean Joe Green, and I'd see him taking out his trash, and we'd all celebrated with him. That was because players weren't as rich as they are now compared to the average person. And most of these players do live in, especially a player of Mitch Marner's salary, live in a gated community, a secure building. They're not living in a regular neighborhood. So it's a little bit tougher. But that, as you said, that's easy for me to say. God knows if my address was posted on the internet and people were saying, let's go there and tell him XYZ, I would not be at that address. I would be out of there. Now, what the Maple Leafs have to do, I think, as an organization, is provide services for those players and their families. If you're feeling threatened, if you don't feel safe, we will provide security for your family while you're on the road, while at night, 24/7 if you want. We see a lot of different stories from all leagues about players getting robbed during road trips and their houses getting ransacked and looted for memorabilia and championship rings and all that stuff. So I would 100% be prepared. These are billionaire owners. They can afford to make this concession for their players to make their lives more comfortable, to make them more safe. And I would say that's part of signing with my team. I don't care if you're the Utah Mammoth. I'd say, look, you sign here and we're going to do two things for you. One, you never have to drive if you don't want to. If you want a ride to and from the game, to and from practice, that's provided. And 24/7, because as we've talked about here, then there's no reason for you to get a DUI. There's no reason for you to have anything happen illegally that gets you taken off the ice or gets you injured. Second thing is, if you want 24/7 security at your residence because you've seen threats online, you're not feeling safe, your family, whatever, we will provide that. Yeah, it's a hell of an expense for the team, but it's going to be something that I think would attract a player, a free agent, to want to sign and retain playing for your organization because they do feel comfortable. They do feel like the organization cares about their safety. Their family feels safe. So I would think that would be something the Maple Leafs should look into because
But
obviously
maybe
that's
they do that.
unacceptable.
I mean, we don't know that they don't do that, or
We
that they
don't,
would be
right.
unwilling to do that. I would be surprised if they wouldn't provide that if it was asked. I'm sure they would do that.
I don't know because I feel like Mitch would have mentioned that, or somebody in Sportsnet would have mentioned that. That the team security was involved and was provided or something of that nature. They know everything that goes on with that team in that market. And but I think it definitely played a factor in his not wanting to sign there. I mean, why wouldn't it? I wouldn't feel comfortable. And like I said, I can go to Vegas and I talk to the guys in Vegas and they're like, man, we can walk the streets and nobody knows who we are here. It's 100% different than what you're experiencing in Toronto, to where there's no privacy. Here, complete privacy, great winters, play golf on January 5th, beautiful weather. Now, summers are pretty brutal. I don't know if you've looked out there lately, Eddie, but it is not comfortable out in Las Vegas these days. But that's Las Vegas. But yeah, I think that would be a definite factor. And it's something that the Canadian teams and certain markets like Montreal, Toronto, maybe even Edmonton are going to need to take into consideration for their players going forward, I think.
And this is also a player, you might remember, that it's not like he's been unaffected by an issue because he got carjacked in Toronto years ago. Now, I don't think that was because, I'm guessing it was just because, hey, that guy's got a really nice car. I don't think they targeted that it was Mitch Marner, let's rob him.
Right.
But he did have, I mean, that was a violent act against him. So he has personally experienced that. I mean, he knows it is possible to have something like that happen to you. So I would think that would factor as well into him taking things very seriously when it comes to something like that. So
yeah. And for as he said, now that he has a wife and child, that's something that you worry about for them. It's, as you know, Eddie, when you see Karen or I see Jackie in pain or something, you would do anything to take that pain onto yourself and relieve them of that burden. I'm more worried about Jackie suffering something than I am me in life, and vice versa with her to me. So I'm sure he's worried sick about something happening while he's on the road and there's a home break-in. There's some stupid fan decides to drop by the house and scare his wife or child. Why put up with that if you don't have to? So 100% the carjacking, I'm sure his wife has a nice car. So he knows that's a possibility and something he has to worry about. I'm not saying he doesn't have to worry about it in Vegas, but it's a different experience, no doubt. And I'm sure he's already experiencing, as he's getting ready for training camp, a completely different atmosphere in and around the rink. The media, what is there going to be, like 5 people interviewing him as opposed to 100? So a little bit different.
On a completely different note, we found out the national TV broadcast schedule in the United States. 172 games will be aired nationally this season. 100 of them are on the ESPN family of networks, ABC, ESPN, ESPN Plus. 72 games will be on TNT. Let's play the Can Doug name the team that will have the most nationally televised games this season? I will give you a hint. It was a little bit of a surprise to me.
We're talking on those networks, right? Not
correct.
Well, it's obviously an American market because that's what they do. They're not going to. There's going to be very few representations from Canadian markets. So I will say it's not Florida because there's no national fan base for Florida, even though they're the best team. Is it an original 6 team?
It is not, surprisingly.
Then I'm going with one of 2 teams. It's either the Washington Capitals or the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Ding, 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 ding. It is the Washington Capitals with 18 games in what could be the final season for Alexander Ovechkin. I'm sure that played some factor in that.
Yep.
You do have 2 original 6 teams that are in second place with 17 games each.
That would be Boston and the New York Rangers.
You got one right. It's Boston and the Detroit Red Wings.
Interesting.
Colorado also has 17.
Okay.
Checking in with 16 games broadcast nationally: Rangers, Wild, Oilers, Stars, and Penguins. You've got the defending Stanley Cup champion Panthers, along with the Lightning, Golden Knights, and Blackhawks. Each have 15 games. Kings, Flyers, Blues, Maple Leafs, 14 apiece. The Devils have 13. The Mammoth with 11. Hurricanes and Islanders each get 10. 9 for the Kraken, 7 for the Sabres, 6 for the Sharks and Blue Jackets. Your Ducks check in with 5. The Nashville Predators with 2. There are 5 teams that have 0 nationally broadcast games in the United States. I'm pretty sure you can guess which ones they are.
Well, I'm going to go with Winnipeg.
Yeah.
Ottawa.
Yeah.
Calgary.
That's correct.
Are they all Canadian?
They are.
Oh, Montreal.
Yeah.
And Vancouver.
That's correct. No nationally televised games in the United States for those 5 Canadian teams. I was surprised Edmonton had so many, considering that at 16. But I guess, hey, star power, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl.
Well, that's a great opponent for a lot of teams. Like if they're playing Vegas, if they're playing Utah, if they're playing Colorado, that's a great matchup. So you've got an American team as an anchor, and then you get them involved as well. Why Montreal, though? Montreal-Boston is a great rivalry. That should be broadcast at least once a year nationally. You've got an original 6 team in America. You've got an original 6 team in Canada, 2 iconic franchises, great rivalry. That should be broadcast. And the Senators made the playoffs last year. I know they're not any great shakes as far as, national appeal, but you're telling me you can't work one game against the Red Wings into that mix? Come on now.
Yeah, and we don't need to see Chicago 15 times, but
God, no.
We know that market is attractive, apparently. And okay.
It's unfortunate. But look, 5 for the Ducks. That just means more games on Victory Plus for me.
EA Sports put out their rankings for all the players for the latest version of the NHL video game. This seems to be actually a big deal in the NFL, right? Players actually will react to this and post on social media. They didn't like their ranking and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if
they have a trophy for the 99s.
Really?
Like if you get a 99 ranking in Madden, the player gets a trophy. So it's a big deal to get that. Yeah.
Well, no NHL player got the Wayne Gretzky. Nobody got a 99. The top ranking overall was Connor McDavid at 97.
I mean, that's fitting. It's his number.
The highest right winger, Nikita Kucherov at 96. The highest ranked right shot defenseman was Cale Makar at 95. And the left shot defenseman, Quinn Hughes, also was at 95. Kirill Kaprizov was the highest ranked left winger, 94. And the highest ranked goalie, Connor Hellebuck, also with a 94.
What's his playoff ranking?
I'm guessing it wouldn't be 94. I don't know.
Playoff on the road is 49.
If it's in the game.
That's right.
I didn't see anything about who was the lowest ranked player, but that would actually be kind of a funny question.
If you use Connor Hellebuck in a road playoff game, you get intermittent controls. Controls just go out for every 3 seconds for no reason.
An arena that we have both visited is apparently going to be around for a while, as the San Jose Sharks reached an agreement with the SAP Center, better known as the Shark Tank. They extended their lease agreement with the city of San Jose through 2051. The deal includes $325 million in city funding and $100 million in private funding for renovations and modernization of the arena, and that will apparently get underway in 2027. If I'm still alive, I would be 82 years old when the lease expires for the San Jose Sharks at the SAP Center. I'm going to take the under in that bet, if I'm being honest about it. But
you don't think you'll be around?
I don't know if I'm making 82. I don't know.
I was going to ask if we will still be doing this show.
Well, I'm pretty sure the answer to that is no, especially if I'm not alive. I know I won't be doing it at that time, but
AI by then can use enough of our VO to just record a new show.
That's probably true.
Yeah, that's a long lease, but I love it. I love the certainty of we're not going to do this BS where we demand a new arena. This place, they will have by far the oldest barn on the West Coast by then, I would think. Although the Pond might be giving them a run for their money. The Sanuelis own that outright. I can see them doing the same kind of thing, kind of remodeling rather than replacing. So the two West Coast arenas could be some of the oldest in the entire league other than Madison Square Garden by the time that comes around.
Yeah, we had some good times back in the days when we were in college, and we asked for some media credentials from the college radio station, and they were stupid enough to send them to us. And we took advantage of it, went on a few trips to San Jose to watch some hockey. So that was a good time.
When I say we've been members of the media since 1993, that's what I'm talking about. We would ask for credentials from the Sharks and Ducks. At least I did. And I got them back in 1993 and ever since. And all you can do is ask. And the Raiders gave us credentials as well. I remember you were flabbergasted at the guy that got back to me via email because it was some legend of the Raiders. And you're like, that's who emailed you? And I'm like, yeah, that's what it says. So, do you remember who that was?
I don't. I could guess.
You remember the reaction of
and it was just that whole thing of, hey, what's the worst that can happen? They say no.
Right. Yeah. So I remember going to a Jaguars Raiders game in the mid 90s. And that's when I saw Kevin Hardy in the locker room. And I'm like, that's the strongest man I've ever seen in my life. That guy is, every single muscle is to the max. I mean, it was just, he looks like a statue. And I'm like, my God, I can't believe that he and I are both technically men. That man is a Great Dane and I am a Chihuahua, for God's sake. We're both dogs, but come on.
I remember a similar conversation with two girls I worked with at back in the day. They are both women, but man, they sure look different. Moving on. Veteran defenseman Tyson Barrie announced his retirement after 14 seasons and 822 career NHL games. The 34-year-old was drafted in the third round by the Avalanche in 2009, had 110 goals with 398 assists for 508 points in his career for the Avalanche, Maple Leafs, Oilers, Predators, and most recently the Flames. He appeared in just 13 games for Calgary last season. Looked on his Wikipedia page to see if there was any interesting notes about Tyson Barrie. Does anything come to mind for you, Doug? Because I did find actually a pretty interesting little note about him.
Well, I know he was named after Mike Tyson, but that's the only interesting note I know about him.
I don't know about that, but I can't say you're definitely wrong. His father Len Berry was at one time the co-owner of the Tampa Bay Lightning.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So I'm guessing back in the day, he had
access to some great coaching and development rinks. Yeah.
I'm guessing he was running around
maybe the
bowels of whatever stadium there.
Thing.
Yeah, for sure. Not much at all in the way of signings this week, but there were a couple just to pass along because why not? The Ottawa Senators signed a couple of players. Center Jan Jenik, he gets a 1-year, $775,000 deal. He's 24. He's played 24 career NHL games for both the Coyotes and the Senators. And they also signed defenseman Cameron Crotty, 2-year deal, $1.63 million. He's 26. He's played 2 career NHL games for the Wild and Coyotes, and maybe a couple of familiar names, at least one of them for me, defenseman Oliver Shillington and forward Giovanni Smith have been invited to try out with the Carolina Hurricanes.
Oliver Shillington, former Duck great. I like that the Ottawa Senators, they made that weird move where they only will sign people that have the same letter starting their first and last name.
So, the alliteration, yes.
Yeah, they love the alliteration. So Jan Jenik, and what was the other dude's name?
Cameron Crotty.
Yeah, there you go. Change your name if you're a player that wants to play for the Ottawa Senators to make it an alliteration. What would yours be if you had to have a first name that started with G? What would you go with?
I would go maybe, how about Garrett or Gabriel, something like that.
Oh, Garrett Garcia. All right.
I always like Gabriel because you could shorten it up, go Gabe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gabe Garcia. I
think it flows a little bit.
Yeah. I'll go Scooter.
Old Scooter Stolhand. Yeah, okay. Wasn't there a Muppet that was named Scooter?
I'm sure there was. I'm sure there's a Muppet of everything at this point, but I don't remember it distinctly.
There was a basketball player. I think it was like Scooter McRae back in the day.
I mean, Scooter McGavin. No, that's Shooter McGavin.
Shooter McGavin.
Yeah, there's a Scooter Magruder. Remember him for the former NFL player?
No, I do not.
Yeah, Scooter Magruder.
Well, that flows.
I mean, obviously a nickname, but still.
All right, Scooter.
I'll go Scooter Stolhand, and the Senators are welcome to sign me at any point. I'll take league minimum, $750,000.
That's very generous of you.
I think so.
Anything we missed? Anything that you noticed that you wanted to mention from the hockey world this week that maybe slipped through the cracks as far as what I saw?
I just want to celebrate the fact that August is over and September is here, and that means preseason hockey is here, training camp is here. We are a month away from the start of the regular season. The long off season is coming to a quick end, and I am very happy about it.
I did see, I guess I could mention it, although there's not really much to say about it, but we did have this past week was the 1-year anniversary of the passing of Johnny and Matthew Gaudreau. Again, not too much to say about it, but that's one of those nights though I'll never forget, because I was working overnights, and when you're working overnights, and I don't mean to be morbid, but when you're monitoring for news, a lot of times it is something bad. It's somebody getting arrested. It's somebody being in an accident.
Right.
And I remember seeing all these tweets from no one of note talking about this had happened. And I'm like, oh man, please don't let this be true. Please let this be some stupid internet hoax. And then unfortunately hours later, it was confirmed that had happened. But I just remember seeing all that on social media and thinking that's got to be some kind of a stupid, sick joke. But unfortunately it wasn't.
Yeah, terrible anniversary to remember. But and as we talked about at the time, just the senselessness of it, and the not only the tragic loss of both of their lives, but the weekend of their sister's wedding. You're getting together to celebrate something great in your family, and it turns into tragedy, and you lose 2 members of the family. My goodness, just absolutely horrific.
Well, that will do it for our first period of the YouTube show. If you enjoyed what you heard or saw, we still have 2 periods remaining on the podcast. Search Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Puck Podcast. You can listen to the rest of the show. Now, if you're already listening to it, second and third periods are coming right up. But if you're watching on YouTube, I'm Eddie Garcia. He's Doug Stolhand, and we'll talk to you next time with another edition of the Puck Podcast.